travel insurance. Is it just a way to get your money? Do I really need it? And what exactly does it cover? Well, stay tuned to find out the answers to these questions today. Is fear holding you back from traveling because you don't have anyone to go with? Are you concerned about being a woman traveling alone and not sure how to prepare for a solo trip? Do family and friends think you are crazy for even considering solo travel? Well, in this podcast, you will become equipped to travel safely by yourself. You'll learn things like tactical travel tips and how to prepare for a trip and how to overcome the fear so you can discover the transformation that travel can bring. My mission is to see more women over 50 discover how travel can empower them. If you want to enjoy your next travel adventures solo, then start your journey here. Hello, sister travelers. I'm Cheryl, solo travel advocate and travel coach. I have experienced life-changing adventures through travel, and I want the same for you. So stay tuned here every week, and you will learn to find freedom through your travels, build your confidence while safely navigating new places. Hey, sister travelers, welcome back to the show. So, are you confused about travel insurance and whether or not you should purchase it or not? Well, I have a story to share with you because I am, I guess you could say, a reformed believer in it. My history shows that I did not purchase travel insurance in the past, but I have a story to share about what changed my mind. So, as we all know, COVID hit in the U.S. around mid-March, and I had a trip planned to Ireland about 3 weeks after everything shut down here in the U.S. Now, luckily for everybody, including myself, that airlines and accommodations, because of that pandemic, they were required to give us our money back, right? Or a travel voucher or something in which we could use again to rebook. A lot of people were able to get travel vouchers and rebook that same trip later. I learned 2 lessons during this time. Well, first of all, as you know, it was so difficult to get through initially. And they kept saying, unless your travel is happening in the next 24 to 48 hours, please don't call. I mean, it took literally 3 weeks before I could get a hold of an agent to discuss my travel and to try to initiate to get my money back. Now, the one lesson I learned during this time is never book with a third party, in which that was the mistake I made. And it took forever to get my money back. I'm talking months. And they decided to take a $50 administration transaction fee out of each ticket that I had purchased. Now, granted, I got some super cheap flights. I don't think I paid any more than $375, maybe closer to $350 on a round trip ticket from the U.S. to Ireland, Dublin at the time. Okay. Now, I've learned I never book through third parties. That's lesson number 1. Hopefully you have learned that and don't do that. So book directly with the airlines. Luckily, because of COVID, all this, they were non-refundable initially, but because of the pandemic, everybody was getting, like I said, money back or travel vouchers to use with, I think they even extended some of those travel vouchers. I think originally they were good for a year, but then things still weren't quite opening up all the way in 2021. So those got extended to some travelers. So fortunately for us, but I learned a lesson never to do that again. Second lesson was, of course, thinking about the idea of, well, maybe I should have purchased travel insurance. Now, this is a good thing to do nowadays, especially in light of, even though we are considered in what we call post-pandemic, post-COVID days, there are still times when this is a good practice. And I actually now practice this every trip I take, in that I do purchase travel insurance. Now, some of that is because I currently don't have personal health insurance. So when I'm traveling, if something were to happen medically for me, I want to know that I can actually get care whatever country I'm in. If you have really good health insurance, and depending on which country you are from and where you're traveling to, this might also be a good idea to get travel insurance, but your personal health insurance might also cover. So that's something you can look at. But let me talk about the 5 reasons you actually should purchase travel insurance. Now, first of all, I'll tell you what it typically covers, so you can kind of get the full picture and understand if this is something that you want to purchase for your international travel. Now, if you are, let's just say you are a U.S. citizen and you are traveling within the U.S. and you have personal health insurance, you're going to be covered, and you would just make sure you're covered when you go out of state. Some insurances are very restricted and that you might need to be within that state or reciprocal states. But for example, maybe you have Blue Cross Blue Shield. That is kind of a national coverage, so you might be good traveling outside of your state and still be covered somewhere, okay? So things to consider. But travel insurance provides coverage for unexpected events that can occur, during your trip, right? It's not required, but it's definitely an add-on to definitely consider. It is recommended, particularly if you are trying to protect yourself financially or medically while you're traveling. I have heard so many stories just from people or women particularly that maybe twisted an ankle while, outside their country on a trip, and they couldn't finish their trip, or something happened and they had to go home early, right? Or they had to get treatment there. So having travel insurance really saved them. So first, the one reason you would purchase travel insurance is for medical emergencies. So you become ill or injured while traveling. These can be costly, and depending on where you are, though, especially if you require any kind of emergency evacuation or hospitalization. Okay, so these travel insurance can cover these expenses. Number 2, trip cancellation or interruptions would be another reason to have travel insurance or to use it. Now, like I said, 2020, we got really lucky in that things were reimbursed, or there was interruptions, of course. But as we have countries have opened up, folks, and airlines have gone back to, for a while, they were still honoring sort of like that trip cancellation reimbursement if it had COVID related implications. Okay. But now that everything is pretty much opened up, a lot of countries aren't even requiring, the test or vaccinations. So now you really need to cover yourself, right? So there's still possibilities that trips can be canceled and there could be interruptions. So travel insurance will cover any of the non-refundable expenses that you've already paid, such as flights, maybe your tours, or your accommodations. Okay. Third reason to get travel insurance, and I just recall, this debacle that happened in Amsterdam airport, that a lot of people's luggage was lost at that time. There was some things going on, but travel insurance would cover lost or stolen luggage, or even damage during your trip. So it can cover the cost of replacing your belongings. All right. Number 4, any kind of travel delays that require any additional expenses that aren't covered by the airlines. Now, the airlines are required, for example, I had a trip that was delayed to the next morning. All right. We were the last flight out. It got canceled, delayed. They call it delayed, I guess, but it really got canceled. The flight didn't come in that was supposed to take us out. Like there was some delays on that end. So they actually gave you a voucher, right? You can get vouchers for a meal is what they gave me, and for hotel accommodations for that night. So, but if there's something maybe outside of that you need to have covered, this is where travel insurance could cover those additional expenses there for any of that kind of delay. And then the fifth reason, there are some travel insurance policies that offer emergency assistance. Okay. Again, this could be medical emergencies, legal assistance, or any kind of unexpected situation. So, and a lot of times those are available 24/7, that kind of assistance. Let's just say you are stuck in a country and, for example, recently there was some issues in Sudan. So if you were a non-citizen of Sudan, and there was some political upheaval recently, and you needed to get sort of out of the country, this may be a good travel insurance. You could reach out to them, see if they can be any of assistance in kind of helping in those situations possibly, but definitely helping you maybe with the cost of having to book a flight immediately to get out of the country to sort of evacuate sort of thing. So those are 5 reasons you would want to consider, and that's what they cover. This is what travel insurance cover. Now, it is important to carefully review all the terms and conditions of the travel insurance policy before you purchase it to make sure it's meeting your needs. There is also, depending on your age, there are even some specifics there. For example, if you are 70 or older, you're going to want to get a plan through a specific travel insurance company called Insure My Trip. They do specialize for the 70 and older population, because it is a little harder maybe at that age to qualify for certain insurance. A list of other travel insurance companies I will include in the show notes, but they are Alliance, which I have used several times. They also offer, if you're, for example, they also cover sort of car rental insurance as well. But check to make sure, because sometimes your car rental, wherever country you reside in, will cover any international rental. Okay, for example, my car insurance, I've learned in the U.S., depending on which provider I have at the time, at times does cover car rental insurance. So you don't need to buy extra, I should say, right? There's also Travel Guard, World Nomads, AIG Travel. There's, as I mentioned before, Insure My Trip. There's Safety Wing, and this is more for the nomadic traveler. They do specialize in that, but these are just to name a few out there. Again, it's important to do your research and compare policies to find out which is the best one to meet your needs and your budgets. You can compare policies and prices on a website such as SquareMouth or even Insure My Trip, to kind of compare what they cover. If you're looking at kind of the pros and cons of each one, you can compare them on those sites and see which one will accommodate you better. Now, travel insurance can be relatively inexpensive. So if you're still on the fence, even after listening to this or hearing my experience, now as I said, I am a reformed person. I never used to get any kind of travel insurance, or really any kind of insurance, but in the past, and I have now revised sort of my thoughts on it, especially with just the changing climate of our world. And ever since, post-COVID, I feel like it's still important to have that extra insurance to kind of make sure that you're covered. Now, I have heard there are certain very high-end credit cards out there that you might want to check if you have a nice, I don't know, a platinum or a gold card, or maybe an American Express. You can check to see what kind of travel insurance your credit card offers you as a member. So check that out before you go and purchase extra again. I personally don't have a credit card that offers that. And as I mentioned before, since I don't have personal health insurance, I make it even more a priority to make sure that I have purchased travel insurance to cover me medically, although I'm a rather very healthy person, but you never know what might happen on the road or during your travels. Like you said, I've heard of people really, injuring themselves, falling down a flight of stairs or something during a tour, and then they can't finish their trip and they have to be maybe flown back early or get some medical care wherever they might be. So consider that just as extra, like, oh, I feel safer, just a kind of a reassurance for yourself. So ladies, I hope this has maybe sparked some, just to do some research before you go ahead and purchase that. But I do highly recommend getting some travel insurance. Yes, you can look at it as a racket. They're getting money, but it really is not that costly, and it just will give you that peace of mind, ladies, while you're traveling, that that you can freely travel and not feel concerned or worried that something is going to happen. All right. So look at the show notes. Look at some of those reasons, those 5 reasons to consider, and what they cover. And then look at some of the different providers and do your research there. All right, ladies, remember, be bold, be fearless, and get out there and have an adventure. Sisters, I wanted to announce that in the month of June, I will be adding an extra episode each week. It will come out on Fridays. And the reason I'm doing this is it's to prepare you for summer travel. So these will be short summer travel tips, 5 to 10 minute episodes on Fridays, released every Friday in June. June only, just in preparation. We got summer travel happening here. It's right around the corner. So I want to provide you with some short little tidbits and tips to survive the summer travel time period. So stay tuned and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the short Friday summer travel tip episodes. Hey, sister travelers, did this podcast inspire and encourage you or move you to get out there and travel? Wonderful. There are 3 ways you can thank me. First one is leave a written review for the show on Apple Podcast. 2, share the show with your sister travelers, your friends, your family. And 3, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And thank you again for listening to the show. Sisters, be fearless, take the leap, and get out there and have an adventure.